John Brown breaking the barriers of turning rhetoric into action. Kyle Markich. What? Another sale? I don't know how these people do it. It's just not right for one man to own another just for the purpose of enjoying the fruits of his labor. It's time I read another column for the genius of the universal emancipation. Messrs. Garrison and Looney said that they were looking for more people opposed to slavery so that they could contribute to their abolitionist papers. So it's time I do my part. The institution of slavery cannot stand in this nation. We claim to be the land of the free, yet this is a gross violation of the principles of 1776. Let us gather together to form commissions to appeal to all lawmakers so that this practice be abolished. Let us gather together to form commissions to appeal to our lawmakers so that this practice be abolished. I don't see this great stain upon our land giving way to talk. Most abolitionists talk about the evil nature of slavery, but are ill-prepared to do much beyond putting their words on a piece of paper. Do they not understand that the Southerner drunk with the money brought from the toil of slaves is not simply going to let them go? Or do these abolitionists not understand the depravity of these Southern gentlemen who put the lash upon the back of the slave for the slightest misstep, a broken tool, an illness keeping them from work, or simply a wrong look upon their face? That is why I, John Brown, am pledged to freeing the slaves through my actions. The newspapers calling for abolition make the white men and the women of the North feel good about their complicity in this peculiar institution, but not one of them has brought us any closer to freedom for the slave. Alas, the hour is upon me to be on the lookout, for the stirring of the brush there must be my cargo for the evening. Don't worry, you are among friends. I'm here to help. Let's be on our way. We have no few miles to travel this dark night if we are to get you to the first station. By 1842, John Brown turned from vocal advocacy to actively helping slaves escape from bondage to becoming a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He did not believe the barrier of slavery could be broken through newspapers and committees, and he would soon be proven correct when Stephen Douglas proposed the Kansas Act in 1854. Don't worry, my brother. There will be a conductor with you every step of the way to Canada. We shall break this barrier, for no man should own another. Let's be on our way. My fellow representatives, I stand to introduce this bill to organize the territories of Kansas, for we have reached across this great nation from one coast to another, and now it needs to be filled in at its middle. What's this? The South will not support passage of this bill for it lies above the 3630 line, thereby precluding slavery in its entirety, which would surely leave the South outnumbered in Congress. I see your dilemma, gentlemen. In 1820, the Missouri Compromise had ruled out northern stretches of the Louisiana Purchase from having slavery. Thus, when it came time to organize those lands into future states, the South foresaw themselves becoming a minority section who would soon be at the mercy of the abolitionist North. Due to this resistance, Stephen Douglas changed his bill to increase its chance of passing. But this act poured salt on a very open wound that would soon get much worse. I stand to introduce this bill to organize the territories of Kansas and Nebraska using principles of popular sovereignty. Let the people of Kansas decide what is best for them. Why shouldn't the settlers of Nebraska have a say in what their law should be? If the residents of these distant lands should want slavery, then let it be upon them to settle the issue. But I cannot see why they would want such a vile institution. But let that choice be theirs. It is as I feared. The barrier to slavery has been buttressed by this Kansas-Nebraska Act. Words have not been enough, and never will they be. This great stain upon our land has been strengthened with this act, allowing for the spread of slavery where it is not. But I will act. I will travel to Kansas, for it is upon the residents to decide whether the barrier to freedom shall be broken or expanded. My dearest family and friends, it is but a fact that ruffians from Missouri frequently cross over the border to harass and damage the settlements of God's children, who have come to make this land free of the sin of slavery. Let us take action to put the scales of justice back into balance. I propose we travel to the settlements that strive to support slavery and give those in support of slavery reason not to find their way to Kansas. On May 24th, 1856, John Brown led an attack upon the slave settlement of Pottawatomie Creek. 5 men were brutally murdered, whereupon Brown then went to free 11 slaves after killing their owner. John Brown took it upon himself to break the barrier of slavery by risking his life to free slaves. In the aftermath of the Dred Scott decision, he was to take his most fateful action. I am an abolitionist, then urge me not to pause, for joyfully do I enlist in freedom's sacred cause. A nobler strife the wilderness all, enslaved to disenthrall. I am a soldier for the war, whatever may befall. I am an abolitionist. I have spent these last few years raising money in the efforts to free slaves, only to see the Supreme Court announce what I have most feared. The Constitution is a barrier to the slaves. Freedom, for he is not worthy of its protection. My dearest family friends, I propose it's time we bring the slaves into the fight for their freedom. I propose we travel to Harper's Ferry, Virginia, where a federal armory is housed. We shall take possession of its weapons and distribute them to the slaves. It isn't enough that slavery be confined to the South, but now our court has announced we must open up our own borders to this vile practice. We must break this barrier separating the slaves from freedom. On October 16th, 1859, John Brown launched his attack on Harper's Ferry. 16 people were killed, including 10 of Brown's own men. Among the dead were 2 of Brown's sons. John Brown was captured and put on trial for murder and treason. I should have gone away, but I had 30-odd prisoners whose wives and daughters were in fear for their safety, and I felt for them. Upon the golden rule, I pity the poor in bondage who have none to help them. That is why I am here, not to gratify any personal animosity, revenge, or vindictive spirit. It is my sympathy with the oppressed and the wronged, who are as good as you and as precious in the sight of God. What's this letter, sent in my last days before I receive God's judgment? Dear friend, in the name of the young girl sold from the clasp of her mother's arms to the clutches of a libertine or profligate, in the name of the slave mother whose heart rocked to and fro by the agony of her forceful separations, I thank you that you have been brave enough to reach out your hands to the crushed and blighted of my race. You have rocked this bloody Bastille, and I hope from your sad fate great good may arise to the cause of freedom. I have done so little to break this barrier separating the slaves from freedom. I have conducted scores to freedom, and have taken the fight from words to action. But alas, the great sin goes on. This is my regret. I don't fear the death my country has assigned me, for I know in the eyes of my Savior, I've done no wrong. On December 2nd, 1859, John Brown was executed. John Brown broke barriers by helping escape slaves on the Underground Railroad, by risking his life fighting against the expansion of slavery in Kansas, and by making the ultimate sacrifice in Harper's Ferry. Lots of people were willing to talk about abolition, but John Brown broke the barrier of polite disagreement when he took up arms to free slaves. His martyrdom defined the purpose of the Civil War for both sides, so that when the North emerged victorious, there was no doubt that the barrier of slavery would be broken.